Today, I would like to explore elitism in the Fire Emblem community, specifically the Fire Emblem subreddit today, which I read a lot, but this might also apply to other communities. Sometimes I see someone post something like, this community is so elitist, they keep gatekeeping the games from newer fans, and personally that's not the impression I have at all. I think there are some toxic people in there, but the majority of Fire Emblem fans that I know are welcoming, helpful, and smart enough to give advice without being condescending or telling them they're playing the wrong way, or anything like that. Like, as far as I know, there isn't a group of rabid Fire Emblem fans out there telling people to bench Amelia and only use Seth, or anything like that. That just doesn't happen. So sometimes when I see someone bring up that they experienced elitism in the community, I will engage. I'll be like, hey, where did you see that? Do you have a link or a screenshot? And a couple times that I've done that, the answer is usually like, no, I didn't keep the link. It's just a vibe that I picked up over time, which is a fair answer. I wouldn't think to keep an archive of that either. Seems like a lot of annoying work, and honestly, the most important time it happens to you is probably the first time it does, at which point you don't know yet that it's going to become a pattern. But today, I got handed my example to me on a silver platter in the opinion thread, as someone not only said the Fire Emblem community is elitist almost verbatim, but there was a handy example linked further down, so we're going to look into that thread and see how big the problem of elitism really is there. Before we dive into it though, I unfortunately have to do a couple of disclaimers at the start. First, everyone involved in here made these posts on a public forum, and I've decided to just leave their usernames visible, since even if I censor them in a video, there's ways to find these comments anyway. So don't be a dick to them, either here in the comments or on Reddit. I think we can have this discussion respectfully. Please prove me correct, I love being correct. Also, of course, I can't base a conclusion on the entire community based on one thread, one example. I can only look at this one with, in the back of my head, the experience I have with the community over the past, decade or so. But all of that is colored by my own biases, which were shaped by the part of the community that I frequent. So it's possible, it's even likely that you or someone else had a very different experience, and you're welcome to post about that in the comments below. I don't mean to invalidate this at all, like your experiences. I do think this thread is a good example of how things generally go based on my time in the community. I think it's a bad idea to generalize an entire community though, or a sub-community based off of a single sample, or the experiences of a single person. And when I'm talking about broader trends, I try to choose my wording carefully to make sure most people understand that what I'm talking about does not necessarily reflect on them. I don't know if the people who need to hear all this are still watching at this point or already typing angrily in the comments, but if they are, now we've got a timestamp that we can refer them to and we can move on. I might have to add more caveats when we're actually going through the text, but for now, this will do. So with that out of the way, let's dig into the meat and potatoes. So this is from the opinion thread on Reddit, and this person posts the following. The maybe Fire Emblem isn't for you comments in that thread about the guy struggling in Conquest, I'll show it in a minute, is our Fire Emblem in a nutshell. Ridiculously dismissive elitism that people will attempt to firmly deny is endemic to the community. It's especially funny because that guy is much closer to the average Fire Emblem fan. And then a couple affirmative comments below. Elitism is seen as some old relic that we've discarded, but it never fucking left this community. And then another person below. In the same vein, I've seen so many people harassed or downvoted for liking a quote-unquote bad character. I saw someone here say they liked Amelia and explained why, and they just got so many comments shitting on the character, like, bro, it doesn't fucking matter. None of them can even agree on how to weigh character traits and value, which IMO makes a lot of in-unit discussion kind of pointless. So, these three people agree that there is a lot of elitism. Now, this last person, I don't know what they're talking about. I haven't seen that thread. If it was there, I would be curious to see it. I might look through their comment history, see if I can find it later. But I want to focus on the thread that I was referring to earlier about the guy struggling in Conquest. So we'll get into that in a minute, because there's another opinion here, right below this one, saying, I have to disagree. That guy literally came into the Fire Emblem subreddit, called the games poorly designed, and said he doesn't want to play strategically. It's not elitist to tell that person they should go play something else if they feel that way. Elitist is telling someone that's struggling that they're probably just too dumb to handle Fire Emblem. It is not elitist to tell someone that doesn't like playing a game that they shouldn't play it. So, curious to see which it is. I maybe should have swapped around the order of reading this from like these people with their opinion about the thread before showing the thread. But at the same time, this is literally how I found it, and after that I started finding the actual thread. So based on these comments, what I'm expecting is one guy asking for help in Conquest because he's struggling with someone, and then a bunch of people telling him, "No, you're just stupid, go play something else because clearly this game is too hard for you." That is what I would expect based off of reading this. Oh yeah, this person, it's pretty important to read this one, I reckon. Literally only 2 posts said that, and honestly, hot take, but if normal mode Conquest is too much for you, then I don't think you honest to God are bothering with the basic mechanics. Like, how hard is it to take the fucking shortcut and just calculate the damage already adjusted for debuffs? Like, the person was unironically using 3 paired up units on one enemy, and not questioning why not just simply use attack stance. And this is how I found the actual thread. So this is the first time I actually found what we were doing. So I think we should just cut that there because there's definitely a lot of different perspectives on this. Why is my voice being weird? Okay, so this is the actual thread. I'm going to be reading through this. I think I have to read it all the way through just to get everything that we want, but it's going to be a bit because as you can see, it's kind of long. So, Conquest Maps makes me not want to touch a Fire Emblem ever again is the title. I'm at the Ninja Cave map and honestly screw these maps. I heard people on YouTube and here on Reddit saying that the maps are some of the best here in Conquest. They might be if they weren't so damn hard. They're too damn hard. Yes, I know. If I try really, really hard and do proper planning, I can get through it, but I don't want to do that every time I pick the game up. I like a lot of the other aspects about the game, except the maps. When I want to chill and play the game and experience what I like about and why I play JRPGs, it feels like I have to deal with so much elitist bullshit gameplay on just normal mode. I have not watched any guides or tricks or walkthroughs of this game, and I'm fairly new to the series, and playing Conquest feels extremely outrageously difficult. Sometimes it takes 3 units to kill an enemy. 3, all of them paired up. On another map, I wasted at least 6 to 7 hours. You can call me whatever, but if most Fire Emblem games have maps like this, I think I'm done with the series, which is where that point came from earlier. I understand it can be a lot of fun and very rewarding if you really put your mind to it, but this is extremely overwhelming for a newcomer to the series, as myself. I really don't want to look up playthroughs, because if I do and see people cheese the game, then I'm never really going to play an FE game. I don't have unlimited time. I swear I could have finished 3 to 4 other JRPGs if I didn't have to reset maps in Awakening, Birthright, and Conquest. The planning for this map is absolutely ridiculous because of the stats down, constantly ruining the calculations and predictions I'm making. Some of the units I have are so freaking garbage even when they are level up. It's insanity. I have no idea how newcomers play this game without looking at guides or playthroughs. I don't really mind looking at them if it's for post-game or a harder mode. I don't know, this feels like really bad design. Maybe veterans have a much easier time with it because they know some of the ins and outs that this game doesn't explain to newcomers and expect you to know them. I don't know them. Sorry for the rant. This game is genuinely making me crawl up a wall and eat through the lime. I'm laughing because the writing is kind of funny. I don't actually think that this is very unrelatable. In fact, I had a somewhat similar experience with Conquest the first time myself, and that was after I played like 10 to 15 other games in the series. Fate's mechanics are kind of hard. But this guy has played through Birthright and Awakening, as we'll see later when we're reading through the thread a little bit. So, question is, I guess, how would you respond to this player, right? That's what we should be thinking about. It feels like they're ranting more than asking for help. If they were actually asking, like, hey, how do I beat this map? I would say, okay, I would actually need to know what units you're using, what classes they are, what weapons you're giving them, what strategy are you employing, where are you putting your units. Trying to figure out where the problem lies, because if 6 of your units, effectively, like 3 paired up units, are not able to kill a single enemy, then maybe it's a matchup problem. Maybe they're not looking at the mechanics in a way that works. And the fact that they are is not a problem. Like, people have to learn Fire Emblem somehow. I was doing the stupidest shit when I was playing Conquest for the first time, and again after I played a bunch of maps. And Fates in particular throws a lot of different mechanics at you that can be hard to intuit even if you have played other games. There's skills that activate on player phase only or enemy phase only that can throw you off. That was what threw me off. The poison and debuffs, for example, and poison strike was specifically referring to, make it a little bit harder to math out in advance what's going to happen, which is why I've always not been the biggest fan of Skill Emblem in the first place, is because I like to be able to look at the battle forecast and see, okay, this is what's going to happen even if I do this on enemy phase, and that can throw you off. And debuffs as well are a little bit annoying to calculate. At the same time, if someone has played through Birthright, the game that basically forces you to use at least 3 ninjas and some other dagger units as well, surely at this point you're somewhat familiar with debuffs and you know to factor them in, but it's a little bit harder because the battle forecast is not of as much help with that. But that could be something that they're walking into. There's a line in there about not wanting to actually play the game, like the series as a whole anymore because of this, which at this point I would recommend they play another game, like just try another Fire Emblem game. Again, Fate is not equally transparent about everything that it should be, and maybe they'll have more fun with Blazing Blade, Sacred Stones, Path of Radiance, you know, the usual goats for newer players. Conquest is literally intended to be one of the harder games in the series. And it's, I think, meant to be experienced at least after Birthright if Fates is your first game. But honestly, this shouldn't be your first game in the first place. But again, it's his third game. He's already played Awakening, he's already played Birthright. I'm assuming it's he, I don't know. Dave. So based off of what people were talking about in the opinion thread, I would expect a bunch of people telling them to get good, to actually learn how to play, something like that. People were being rude, apparently. So let's look at a couple comments. First one. Conquest probably isn't a very good first Fire Emblem game, to be honest, at least without turning the difficulty down. They don't actually clarify that they played Awakening or Birthright here, but they have. It's so hard for me. I don't know, maybe I start to lose the last bit of patience I have. So they recommend a different game, and then they agree to maybe do that. Another one, Conquest is designed for veteran players that want a challenge. So, and they're like, okay, I'm playing on easy difficulty with permadeath, so normal mode, classic, no Phoenix or casual, which is what I would generally recommend new players try, just to get used to classic mode since it's in every game. Conquest is not the greatest game for newcomers. Maybe play in casual mode if it helps. Like, not like, oh, if you're just bad, you should play on casual mode. No, if it helps, you could try playing on casual mode, and they're like, oh, thanks, I might do that. Another one, I think you might have picked the wrong one for this if this is your first time. The way the OP is written, I definitely don't blame the posters here for assuming it's his first Fire Emblem game. Since, again, since the matchups he was facing were so bad, again, it takes 6 units to kill one enemy, then there's probably something that they're doing wrong. It might be easier to learn that on a different game or different difficulty setting. And then they explain it, like, the reason most Fire Emblem fans, especially on here, on like YouTube, like Conquest, is because they are harder, they're more of a challenge. Because they're interesting, potentially frustrating, etc. I see someone say that Fire Emblem might not be for you, which may be the case, but I don't think Conquest being your first potential try at the series is a very good measurement. I've been playing Fire Emblem since the Game Boy Advance, and I also find Conquest to have pretty challenging maps, so definitely don't think it is just you, or even just because you are new. And then here to clarify that they have finished Awakening and Conquest, which is why I knew this. He says that Birthright and Awakening still required a lot of patience and thinking, but it was more satisfying because it wasn't overwhelmed by so many calculations and predictions. I just had to enough where I could really enjoy the game. Assuming he means, yeah, I had to do so enough where I could really enjoy the game. So this one is like pretty friendly. They have like a pretty friendly back and forth here. You can read it on your own if you want to. Like the thread is pretty easy to find. Something about Baruka dying to ninjas, I guess, might be interesting. Yeah, like, I got to the boss at Ninja Cave after a few hours, only for Baruka to die to the grunt. So the thread is like not all the way visible here, because the Reddit bumps things to the right. Here we go, now it's visible. Only for Baruka to die to the boss grunts. They teamed up and she didn't even stand a chance. Looking at her stats, she should have. Gotta hate when that happens so much. I hate so much when it happens. Misses the predictions all the time. But yeah, that's the problem with like Poison Strike and debuffs, which can be hard to factor in. But if you got to the boss, I do think it's reasonable to expect, like, it's reasonable from the developers to expect the player to learn that what you see with ninjas is not necessarily what you get when debuffs are going to happen. And you might need to change your strategy up if you're just relying on someone who only survives it to don't get debuffed. I think it's a reasonable lesson for the developers to intend the player to learn. It's okay if the player still doesn't learn, like everyone learns at their own tempo. And I don't see anyone so far in the thread saying that is not the case. And then this other person is like replying with a bunch of tips, played another game, skip Conquest 4 minutes. Let me see if I can find. No one should be recommending Conquest to newbies. Conquest is harder. You're playing a Fire Emblem game meant to be a challenge. And then this is the first comment, I think, that looks a little bit more negatively. Let me read through this one. It's not the most asshole-ish comment in the thread, but it's as we're getting lower, they're getting more asshole-ish. You went through Birthright, refusing to learn a single thing about the game. Look, in the words of Walter from the Big Lebowski, actually in the words of the Big Lebowski himself, you're not wrong, you're being an asshole. Please don't be a dick. Maybe we'll try to give you tips on how to improve your gameplay, such as attack speed and doubling calculations, how the stats work when dual stance and pair-ups are more advantageous. weapon triangle, proper positioning, etc. You dismiss them all with Lamau, I'll just be pairing up everyone then. I don't know when this happened. I would have to go through this guy's comment history to like figure out if that's the case. But maybe that's true. Let's assume for now it's true. I don't know. So now that you're in the route designed to give a challenge to the player, of course you're hitting a brick wall after brick wall. For example, why are you deploying Odin and Nyx without a plan in a map where they both suffer from weapon triangle disadvantage, which you don't likely have Calamity Gate? I suspect you still don't understand how the weapon triangle works. So basically this guy is probably experienced this person in a different thread, asking for advice and then kind of refusing it, which can be frustrating to experience as a community member. It's like someone posts like, oh, I can't beat this mission. It's hard, it's frustrating, it's bullshit, bad design. And you come with like, oh, have you tried this and this and this? And what you're doing wrong is this and this, and they just miss it or something. It continues kind of like this a little bit. The original poster replies, the post I made about Birthright was a bit my fault because I wasn't stuck on a main mission, but a side one in order to get Shigure, and it was underleveled when I unlocked it, which felt like a difficulty spike. I actually wanted to text you privately, but because the post was removed, thought it might be weird. I learned to strategize since quite a lot. Pay attention now to enemy stats and my stats positioning. Try to ascertain enemy behavior, set up traps and ambushes. You can almost say bye-bye to those in the Ninja Cave map. Screw everything you learned so far, you have to radically adapt now. And they're basically saying, yeah, I was stuck because I was in Birthright, but it was Shigure Paralog that got me, which is a lot harder for some reason. I don't know what the difficulty was. Usually Shigure Paralog is considered one of the easier ones. Maybe if you're used to Birthright, then Shigure is harder than most of that game. I personally didn't find it that way, but maybe their experience is different. They explained that the Paralog skill with you, so you weren't unleveled, and then he wonders maybe if the Paralog skill with you in that game at all, which it does feel like another dismissal of someone trying to help. Is like they literally just told you your Paralogs do skill with you. That's how they work. So I would appreciate it more if this guy actually listened to the advice. The guy's a little bit rude, but I wouldn't say he's like a big asshole like telling you not to play Fire Emblem. He just had a previous experience with this person that made it worse. Is it the same person? No, it's not the same person. I guarantee you that you have a lot of tools that you are not using, and also you aren't telling much. The ninjas are pretty fast and hard to double, so you can take advantage of the attack stance instead of pair up guard stance to kill them quickly. The game just gave you Shura, and he is very strong on this map since his stats are great and he has weapon triangle over the ninjas. Or you can stat stack by taking advantage of things like tonics, Laszlo's fancy footwork, Camilla's personal skill and good pair bonuses such as Keaton or Berserker. For example, you can give Xander plus 10 attack by having him paired up with a promoted Keaton, give him a strength tonic, putting him adjacent to Camilla, and having Lancelot use fancy footwork. If that ninja is at full HP, you get 2 more attack from Xander's personal skill, Chivalry, for a total of plus 12 attack. If Odin got married, you could do the Paralog you get for Ophelia and the Calamity Gate, which is weapon triangle over ninjas. But the most applicable piece of advice you can get is to do the math. Conquest actually expects you to plan out your turn and future turns, so if you don't, you'll get punished. And I respond, I didn't play with Keaton or Laszlo, I played with other characters because I wanted to level them up. None of the characters are married or promoted except for the guy I found in the other world with Azora. I thought he might be dead. Forgot his name. I think he joins the party already promoted. It does really help if someone this would be a good opportunity for someone to just post their team, tell them what they're doing. And this is a very important piece of information actually. No one is promoted. In chapter 17 of Conquest, I believe Ninja Cave is. At that point, it's pretty good to have someone promoted. Again, far be it from me to tell them how to play, but if they're coming and saying they're having trouble, it's really hard not to tell them something that could be a good idea. Not to tell them, you have to play this way, you're wrong. But you probably should promote someone. It would really help a lot if you did. Some explanations on what they can do to make it better. Not as very dismissive, IMO. And then he gives him a bunch of advice, and he's like, how am I supposed to know all this? I didn't use Keaton, Charlotte, or Laszlo. Wanted to, but this mission has a low count of characters I can use. Keaton just needs a Master Seal in order to act like a great offensive backpack. Bro, I haven't even promoted a single character in this game. Randomly throw a seal at someone, hoping they will help you. I don't mind your advice, but this looks like advanced strategies you have to look up to just play the game with easy difficulty. I tried making my own and failed miserably. I would really hate having to look up a guide. So before I read the other person's response, the game is not expecting you specifically to throw a Master Seal at Keaton, but it's giving you that as an option as well as many other ways to overcome this problem. Maybe you don't necessarily have to do this, but something like it. Promote someone, optimize your backpacks a little bit, optimize your pair bonuses a little bit, work on your supports beforehand just to get better scaling into the late game. It would be the same thing as if we told this guy, if like someone did, if you marry Odin off to someone, you can get the Calamity Gate on the Phileas Paralog. You don't have to do that to beat the game. It's just one of the many ways to make the chapter easier. And the better you are at the core Fire Emblem skills that Fates requires, the less you have to do these specific things. But the more of these specific things you do, the easier it becomes. It's a spectrum. The better you are at Fire Emblem and the better strategies you employ, the easier the game is going to be. These are two things that work hand in hand to make it better. And every Fire Emblem game has something like this, but Conquest probably has the most complicated those because it has the most intricate is the word I was looking for. I was like intriguing? No, intricate. That's one of the most intricate mechanics that you can explore. And I think that's normal for a strategy game. This harkens back to I think what someone else is going to say later about this guy talking about JRPGs. Fire Emblem's not really a JRPG, it's a strategy RPG. And it is made for people who enjoy trying to figure out these strategies. This guy's frustrated because his own strategies aren't really working. But if every strategy worked, then it wouldn't be a very interesting strategy game. In fact, it might not be a strategy game at all. I guess it could be a very easy strategy game. But there should be good and bad strategies in a game. And just the fact that your strategies are not working is not a sign that the game is flawed. It might mean that you need to optimize your strategies to be better at the strategy game. And those are different things. Let me see another comment here, because this one, I think we pretty much got the low-hanging fruit for this one, this thread. You picked the wrong game to start on. Earlier games don't reduce your stats like that. These other games are better for you. It was tough for me as well near the end on normal. I did a few fights with my castles in order to boost some support ranks, unlock a parallel, get me more XP. That was just enough to get me through. Sympathetic. I see the one below this. Don't worry. Yep, another sympathetic comment. Really, I don't even need to read it out. There we go. There is an asshole comment. God forbid you have to strategize in a strategy game. Yeah, except for when you're 1 hour into a map and your calculations get ruined by new ones or some other minor detail you forgot or a BS skill, and to be fair, those mistakes are on me at the end of the day. But Conquest requires you to be aware of so many damn variables, it's insane. Especially the Ninja Cave map. At some point, you're going to have to actually explain what those mysterious calculations you keep getting wrong are. I'm trying to bait an enemy or two, and then I leave the job for someone with a high defense. Sometimes they can get a lot of damage in, and get killed, and I have to reset the map. Sometimes it does damage until the unit is left with half of HP and gives me the wrong idea of stats. That's probably Poison Strike and Grizzly Wound at work. That's like, I think, double minus 20% or something that you take. That is a lot. I don't remember if there's Grizzly Wound in normal or hard. I do know that it's there on Lunatic. It must be. I can't imagine he would say this if he was just getting Poison Struck for 20%. Anyway, this is an asshole comment. I don't like this. I also don't like the fact that it's at 7 upvotes, or 6 upvotes maybe. I don't know who's doing that. It's not completely different from what I said. It's just phrased in a more asshole way. What I said is, the game's punishing you for using the wrong strategies. Try figuring out better strategies. This guy's doing it in a more rude way. He's not entirely wrong. He's not telling him not to play Fire Emblem, at least. That's good. But it is, like, terribly rude to put it that way. I don't know why people were upvoting this. That's kind of cringe. Conquest not good for a new game. Maybe bump down the difficulty. It's not easy. There we go. In the least judgmental way possible, I think Fire Emblem just isn't for you. This is the first comment that I think actually goes like, hey, maybe don't play this game. And then he says, well, this may be controversial in this community, but I really enjoy everything else about this game. The art, music, and even the story and the characters. Sure, it's a bit odd at times, but I really dig it. Same with Birthright. So they're basically saying, I like everything else, I'm just frustrated with this one thing that's really ruining my playthrough. I see what they're trying to go for, but it does really make you look like a bit of a dick to tell someone not to play the series. But they're also clearly trying not to be a dick about it in the least judgmental way possible. Is it possible to say these things? Is this one of those, I'm not a bad thing, but not to be an asshole, but, and then saying an asshole thing? Is it like that? I don't know. They're trying. And this is the first comment like this. I think this is the only comment like this that says maybe Fire Emblem is not for you. And again, it harkens back to the fact that OP was like, yeah, I can play other JRPGs in this time. It's like, yeah, it's a different genre than a JRPG. It has some overlap, for sure, but it's not just that. Someone asking what they're using, what levels they promoted, and they're like, none of them are promoted. It's like, no units being promoted, again, I went over, is an issue. I don't know if it's because they're using too many units, like this person is saying. Maybe they're using I don't know if they're using their full deployment or if they're actually using 20 units. Some people play Fire Emblem and they will literally change their team every chapter and then end up under-leveled. That does happen sometimes. You can also promote people early. Like, the fact that people are not promoted might be because they haven't hit 20 yet, or be just averse to early promotion, or both. Like, that could be the case. A tip for how to handle ninjas in higher difficulty. With, like, the little Xander trick. And this explains that it's not a JRPG, like I talked about earlier. I basically stole those points from this guy, by the way. Like, they got it first. Someone that hates on Conquest that gets downvoted. Like, literally any other Fire Emblem game, Conquest is dog shit. You've been lied to by Redditors. 0 points. Another Conquest is bad person. Here's another asshole comment. Here's an idea. Just simply calculate damage already accounting debuffs. There you go. Problem solved. Lamau, how do you know which character the enemies are going to attack, especially in an open area? This might work when there's loads of them, and I push them on purpose in tight spaces, but even that is really dangerous no matter how much defense the character has. Generally, enemies will attack units that can kill or at least damage well. Also, open area just means you have to be more careful with your positioning of your units. I don't know what you mean by no matter how much defense a character has. Can you elaborate on the issues you're having? I was talking about specific strategies where you can push and gather enemies in tight spaces. The way to do this with someone on high defense, but it can be risky as well because of his stats down from ninjas. Like, again, I think he's pushing, like, I don't know, Benny or Xander or someone with high defense into a choke point. They get debuffed, they get poison struck, they get grizzly wounded maybe, and then they die because they take too many attacks. And then some actual feedback and tips that are nicely received. So even though their opening comment here, which got downvoted by the way, is kind of sarcastic and mean, it does hit the core issue where OP might not be properly processing things, but again, like I said, with the ninjas it can be a little tough. That's the bottom of the thread. So, now that we've seen all of it, how big is the problem of elitism in this thread specifically? Because we can't really talk about the community as a whole. There were a couple assholes in there, for sure. And I don't mean to minimize how annoying, bad feeling it can be to engage with someone who is being sarcastic, when you're trying to ask for help, or being annoying, or telling you to play a different game. Those experiences can definitely be bad, and they stand out. There's a reason that the saying is, a rotten apple spoils the bunch. For some reason, people never finish that proverb or whatever it is, but yeah, it can really sour your whole experience if like one person is being an asshole, even if there were 10 other people being nice to you. That said, this doesn't mean the community as a whole has an elitism problem. I mean, if a small number of people are causing a big amount of problems, I guess the problem is there. The question is, how much is it the fault of a community, and how much is this a people problem, where even on the street out there, or just like in random places, there will always be a couple of assholes, and it shouldn't be your responsibility to deal with assholes, even if they're 1 in 10 and capable of ruining your day. But at the same time, can we really blame the community as a whole for a couple people being annoying, especially when if I must have read like over 50 comments, maybe even 100 comments right now, and honestly most of them were helpful, sympathetic, basically saying it's not just you, Conquest is hard, maybe play a different game, maybe you just don't enjoy the series, but in a slightly different way. They basically said respectfully, maybe the series is not for you, but again, I don't know if you can say that without being an asshole, but they really tried not being an asshole, even if it didn't succeed. Conquest is supposed to be a challenge, it's the more challenging routes. Maybe the person does need to learn lessons from Birthright a little bit more. But it is, I know from experience, it's possible to stumble through games that you're bad at without learning the lessons that the game developers intend you to learn. As someone who's played like Hollow Knight and been super awful at it, you can sometimes try hard enough to get through. Like this guy was like, okay, I wasted 6 to 7 hours on a map. That's insane. That's so much time on one map. And if you try hard enough, even with a bad method in a game, you can get through it. Another good example, new mystery like Lunatic or Lunatic Reverse. I've gotten through a couple prologue maps, but not because I learned the right strategy to beat it, but because eventually I would just get lucky with low percent crits for dodges that I wasn't really supposed to have. Like there'd be an obvious AI manipulation that I just entirely missed. Sometimes the developers, when trying to teach you through making you do things, will push you through a map and you won't have learned the proper lesson. Instead, you'll just keep banging your head against a brick wall that you keep running into. That can happen, and it's valid for someone to have that experience because I've had it myself. Or, I mean, that makes it sound like I'm saying it's valid, but only if I have that experience. You know what I mean to say. I understand this experience. At the same time, I can see that some people are giving them advice and they're not really super willing to take it sometimes, like promote some units. How am I supposed to know I'm supposed to promote units? Well, it gives you a big stat boost. Like it's what the Master Seals do. They're buyable from the very beginning, at least one, and you get more and more and more. If the game is feeding you a bunch of Master Seals, it's probably a good sign that you're supposed to promote someone somewhere at some point. So, but does that make the Fire Emblem community as a whole elitist? Because, like, let's harken back to where we were on this thread, right? Elitism is seen as some old relic we've discarded, but it never fucking left the community. Ridiculously dismissive elitism that people will attempt to firmly deny oh, whoops, not scrolled up here. Will attempt to firmly deny is endemic to the community. It's especially funny because that guy is much closer to the average Fire Emblem fan. How bad was it, really? How bad was this thread to OP? I invite you to let me know in the comments, because again, I understand that a couple people can really ruin an experience for you, but even the guy that was downvoted the most, that said the most sarcastic, mean thing here, why don't you just calculate the damage? It looks like OP still got a reasonably positive exchange out of this in the end, so props to them for, you know, engaging with someone that was clearly not exactly being nice. I don't know, how bad was this? I don't think this was too bad. Could be better, yes, there's a couple guys in here that were being mean, but also most of them got downvoted. Some of them didn't, and I wish they were. And even if someone got downvoted in the end, doesn't mean that the comment hasn't been able to cause a negative impression for other people. Also, there could be comments that have been deleted by the mods, I don't know. Probably not, I think you can see that kind of on Reddit. But it's possible that a thread looks more positive than it actually was at first because moderators got ahead of it. And also community moderating, like downvotes and upvotes don't happen instantaneously. Someone can have a mean comment that could even like be upvoted at the start and then 10 minutes later be downvoted a lot. So how a thread looks can really differ depending on when you do. I'm looking at it like on April 9th at like start of the afternoon for me, but it could be totally different in another 24 hours. Like the thread is only 13 hours young. But I don't know, is this really an example of the community being really mean to someone who's struggling with a Fire Emblem game? Or is this a thread where someone is struggling and people are trying to tell them what could be good ideas to fix them, and there's a couple of assholes in here that are being mean? I think it's closer to the latter than the former. It could be both, like I maybe presenting a bit of a false dilemma here, but I don't think this was too bad. And this is often how these threads go, in my opinion. One person asks, vents, rants, people offer explanations, advice, tips, consolations, say, yep, this is a common problem that people have. You'll just have to learn on this and this and that. And sometimes the person will accept the advice. Sometimes they'll be like, how am I supposed to know that? It happens sometimes. So, yeah, I don't know. If I read this thread as a new player, I don't feel like I feel like this is a very toxic community. But maybe you think otherwise. Let me know what you think in the comments.